Hello, it's Technology Central here, and welcome to the fourth tutorial in our six-part tutorial series on how to use Google Sheets. In this tutorial, we're going to show you how to use data validation within your spreadsheet. We're going to work you through an example of inserting a drop-down list in 3 different ways: validating someone's age, and validating that a text is in fact an email address. So let's get started with the drop-down lists. In this example, we're going to have a small form that we're expecting someone to fill in. For the area that they choose, we want them to pick from a list of 4 different options. We've got the list of 4 different options here. We're going to create our drop-down list by first selecting the cell we want to create it in. Then come to Data, Data Validation. We now choose a criteria list from a range. You can then either enter the range yourself or click this Select Data Range. These 4 options are the options we want to include in our list, so we highlight and select them. We should not include titles in this selection. Click OK. Now you have the options if someone tries to manually enter something in the cell that is not in that list. You can either show them a warning or block them from entering the data. You can also choose to show help text when someone's entering data if you choose. Now we've set this up, click Save. As you can see, we now have a drop-down list as so. If I now try to enter something in the cell which is not within our list, for example, if I just enter blah, it'll let me, but give us the warning. If we'd said to block, it would not let me enter that data. Now let's look at the second way of inserting the drop-down list. The second way is to have the list of possible options in a separate sheet within your spreadsheet. You might want to do this if you want to prevent people from changing the list. You can do that by protecting the sheet. That means you can limit who can make changes to it. We've done that here, where we've recreated this in this separate sheet. I'm going to delete this option and now recreate this drop-down list. Come to Data, Data Validation, and again choose a list from a range, but this time come to the other sheet and select the data there. Now click OK and click Save. Now when we come back here, as you can see, we still have our drop-down list. Finally, let's look at the third option for creating our drop-down list. Again, select the cell you want to insert the list in, come to Data, Data Validation, and then under Criteria, choose List of Items. Now you can enter a comma-separated list of items here. Finally, click Save, and you'll see that we have HR, Management, and Sales as our drop-down list options. Now we've finished with our drop-down list, let's look at a couple of other types of data validation. The first one we're going to look at is age. This means we want to validate that someone's age is within a given range. To validate that it's a valid age, we're going to check that the value that's entered here is a number and it fits within a sensible range. So again, select the cell, come to Data, Data Validation. Now choose Number, and we're going to say that it must be between 0 and 120. It is sensible that ages will all be between 0 and 120. And we're going to reject input if someone tries to enter something different. I'm also going to choose to show validation help text and click Save. Now, when I come here, it'll warn me that I must enter a number between 0 and 120. If I try to enter something that isn't in that range, for example, -1, it'll say that there's a problem and block me from making that entry. If I enter something that's sensible, for example 60, it'll work fine. Finally, we're going to look how to validate that something is a valid email address. It's also possible to do a website URL in the same way. Select the cell, come to Data, Data Validation, and then we're going to choose Text. Then instead of leaving this as contains, we're going to choose is a valid email address. You could also choose is a valid URL. I'm going to leave it as just showing a warning and click Save. I'm now going to enter an example email address as example@gmail.com, and that will work fine. If I make this not a valid email address, gmail@com, then it will warn me that this is not valid. You can tell that by this red square here. That's all we wanted to show you in this tutorial. I hope you found it useful. If you have, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and leave us a comment. Also check out our other tutorials in this series on how to use Google Sheets. But for now, thanks for watching and goodbye.